episode of Late Night Riders, we talk to Jill Tweedy, owner of Tucker Tweed Equestrian. We talk about her beautiful handbags, and she also gives some tips on her successes of running her business.
We will be celebrating our 10-year anniversary December 9th of this year. So 9 years in business. And I started, my goodness, it was 2009. I had a group of girlfriends who invited me to a Women of Faith conference, and they came to pick me up, and they each had their matching luggage, and I had my practical horse girl luggage, which was like some free nylon luggage that my husband had received in the .com days.
Sure.
And after that trip, I noticed how pretty the girls' matching luggage sets were. And so for Christmas, that was in the fall. And so for Christmas, I asked my husband if he could find some horse luggage for me. And at the time, there really wasn't anything overly horsey in the luggage. He did find a pretty piece of luggage for me, but he added a luggage tag that had a horse theme to it, but that was it. So after Christmas, we took a little vacation. We were in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and he asked me, he said, if you could have received from me what you wanted, what would it have been? And I told him, and he said, don't you think other women might want that too? And so my husband's an entrepreneur by nature, and so was my father. And so I've kind of been surrounded by that way of thinking. And so he kind of provided the initial motivation. And so for the next 6 months, I was searching for someone who could create luggage for me. But now we're in 2000. My goodness, that was actually 2008 that I took that trip. Then we're in 2009. And, we're in the recession. People aren't traveling. And if they are, they're not buying luggage.
Right.
So I kind of took a half halt and just paused on that idea. But in the back of my mind, I knew I wanted to create something that shared my passion when I was out of the barn. Because I love talking to women like you about what we do.
Yeah.
And when someone sees a horse out of the barn, they're drawn to it. And then you meet new people and you have conversations about it. So fast forward to 2010, Dale and I went to the World Equestrian Games in Kentucky. And we're walking around the horse park, and there's gorgeous women like you, and they're carrying purses that are all different price points. And none of them had horses on them. So that's where I turned to my husband and I said, here's my market. This is it. And so we're in Lexington. So I named our first purse the Lexington. That's really how it came to be. It was just divine and faith. And yeah, that's how it started.
That's so wonderful.
Very cool.
And your signature, I love it. It's on your jacket or your top.
Yes.
And it's on, the purses and things too. How did you come up with that then? How did that all kind of evolve then, or the name of the company as well too?
That's a great question. So I bought my horse Tucker 12 years ago. In fact, it'll be 13 next month. And once I kind of had the idea of I want to create a product, first I wanted luggage, and then obviously I pivoted to purses, but I knew I wanted to be something about the two of us, about Tucker and I. And my last name is Tweedy with a Y, and I just dropped the Y because tweed has an equestrian element to begin with. Traditional hunt jackets were made of tweed. Many of them still are. So I just combined his name and my name, and we have Tucker Tweed. And to make it obvious that it's something in the equestrian world, I just added equestrian to the end of our name.
I love your signature logo. I think it's so pretty. That's just
Thank
really,
you.
Yes, that's very, very pretty.
Thank you.
Where did the fox come into play?
That's a great question. When we debuted, I only had the hunter and dressage because that's what I was doing at the time. I had come out of the hunter world. Tucker had a bone spur in his coffin joint, and his jumping was over, and we had just moved into dressage. So those were my two options in the beginning. And then I started looking back, and I thought about how much I loved fox hunting as a young adult. So I brought the fox in. In fact, I worked with a really neat company online. I did a contest online with artists all over the world to create that image.
Oh, wow.
Because a fox face is really unique. And I found an artist actually in Indonesia who created his face for me. And we edited his face, and I call him a he, but we edited his face 26 times to get everything just right.
26 times. Wow.
So
there it is.
Kristen added a little scarf to hers. It looks so cute. And then the one that's on the side, Gretchen, over to the side. Yep. That one I carry every day, and I just love it. So
I love that.
yeah. That's really 26 times. Unbelievable.
Yes. Like
Wow.
even, and I was dreaming about foxes by the time we finished. It took us about 10 days to
Yes.
create it, but like their eyes are almond shaped, but they're slightly upturned, and they have a squareness to their face, and
Yes.
their ears are at a 45-degree angle. Like I really studied the face to try to get it accurate. And then we added fox hunting elements that also I studied to be sure they were accurate as well.
The hunt appointments are really cute at the top. I really like that. It really adds to it. And we are previous fox hunters, which we just loved it. So that really that resonated. So yeah, very nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then this is the other one that you were the signature too of the
Isn't she beautiful?
yeah. So
Sedgefield.
pretty. Yep.
That's
Very
the
much so.
Sedgefield legacy. And the neat thing about that one, my fox hunting years, that purse was really a nod to the club that I hunted with, that Sedgefield hunt. And they also, in that area is also Sedgefield Stables, where I was showing my first horse.
Mm-hmm.
So in fact, a lot of the names of our handbags are relevant or symbolic of something either in my life or in the horse world, but that's where Sedgefield Legacy got its name.
Well, anybody that loves horses, anybody that wants to carry a purse, I mean, this is the way to go. Because like I said, I've carried this one every day since I've had it,
Yes.
and you have made my life so much easier.
Yes.
So the other thing I want to say is that the wristlets that we have, now my girls had to help me with this, but they're like, put everything you have in there, and then you can just pull this out of your bag and carry it in the store. So I started with just the little handle, just taking it as a wristlet, but then the crossover, my granddaughters had it, and then used that, and I'm like, that's all I do now.
Makes
That's
it so easy.
Yeah,
it does.
that's been
Yeah.
a dream to
And
shop with.
I just love it. So I really like just the basic black. It goes with everything, and the gold. But we have loved it.
So have
That's
you?
mine too. I have it with
Oh,
me.
you do.
Oh,
Oh, it's pretty.
See, that makes me feel good. The
Yes,
same.
I love it. Yep.
When you come up with a new design idea, does that come from just what you're wanting, or do you get input from other customers, or how does that work?
That's a great question. In my mind, I already have 3 or 4 more designs. 2 are on paper, and 2 are still here. But all along, I've really listened to women and what they tell me they want. Like, I love how you just said that, how it solves problems and it's so easy because you've got the big bag and then you pull the small one out to walk into a store. Like, I really try to listen when women tell me what they want, because that's where we get our ideas about colors, about function, about design. Like even a wide strap. I had a woman tell me, I hate how the strap's always sliding off. And I thought we need a
Yes.
wider strap if we just do one. And if we do 2, we try to do a rounded edge or a smooth edge so it sticks to your shoulder. But yes, I do. Sometimes I have in mind, like I knew I wanted to do something small that could almost function as a wallet, but also a purse, and that's how we ended up with the Wellington wristlet. But I had women who would say, I really want something big and unstructured. Like that's how we ended up with the new Sonoma.
Okay.
Couple women that have just, like Noreen Cothran, she's at Farmhouse Tack. She has given us so many ideas. She was the one who said, do chestnut and black.
Ooh.
You know, and that has been our best selling color combination. So I
Wow.
listened to her.
Wow.
Same thing with Happy Chandler at the tack room. You know, she has made suggestions about what to do in our travel line. She's suggested something to do next in our travel line. So that name is in my brain. And when I pull the trigger on that, I'll be sending her the first one free because she was the first one to suggest it. So yeah, I really do listen to what women tell me they want. And every idea that I've tried, it's worked. Anything that people have suggested, it works.
That's so nice.
So how long does it take, from, you have your new design of a bag, like how long does it take to make it and actually have it in full production?
It can take up to a year, depending on
Wow.
how challenging the design is, because I send sketches and pictures and drawings and dimensions. I send every detail that I can to our manufacturers, and they send me their interpretation of what I'm requesting. And then once I receive it, then I'm testing it. And so I'm carrying it around, I'm throwing it in the car, I'm throwing it in the barn, I'm taking it everywhere I can just to see how well it's going to hold up, how practical it is, how the dimensions are working. I mean, there's a definite, you're kicking the tires to see if it's going to work.
Yeah.
And then if I make edits, then I'm sending new drawings, new sketches, new dimensions, and then they send another one. And often it takes about 3 samples before we nail it down.
Wow.
Wow.
It can be a year, but it's worth it because so far I haven't wanted to change anything once we debuted it.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
really,
that's
that's
very
good.
cool.
Yeah. And yours, Ida, you have yours with you
Yeah.
too, which I just think is,
So I have the Brandywine backpack.
yes, in red. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Love it. Love the color.
With
And
the
for me,
signature.
like,
Oh, there's hers.
yeah.
I'm surrounded
There
by
you go. We want to
purses.
see. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So,
So, and I love it because I mean, I take my backpack with me all the time, and I have throw my laptop in there, and then I also have my wristlet, and it's so easy, and I love it. Like,
What inspired
Thank
the
you.
creation of the backpack?
Oh, so my husband and I started traveling a great deal in the last few years. We have 2 sons, Tanner and Chase, and they both played high school lacrosse. And Tanner went on to play lacrosse for the University of South Carolina. So we were traveling a lot and sometimes flying, a lot of road trips too. But when we were traveling, and particularly when we were flying, I kind of wanted my hands free, but at the same time, I wanted something that was really secure because when you've got something on your back,
Mm-hmm.
someone could get into it and you might not know.
Mhm.
So when I created, I kind of threw everything that I wanted in a backpack at this design. And it's fun to see if people figure out my thinking once they have one, because I've never created a video that says, here's what I was thinking. And it's fun to find out what people realize. But like, as far as security goes, you know how I said I wanted something I could carry on my back so my hands would be free while I'm walking through the airport. So I added the drawstring clothes, which you see here, which it's almost like a hobo bag has married a backpack, okay, in this one area. But what we do is I had this, I don't know if you noticed, there's a space here. And maybe you figured this out, but to make it very secure, I mean, obviously to close it, there's a magnet here and you
Right.
can attach the magnet. But when you're traveling through the airport, perhaps like between the plane until you get to maybe your car, your rental car, when you leave the airport, what you can do is tuck this down through here and then snap the magnet over it. So you've got 2 steps of security here. And we added the same thing here. You know, you've got
Yeah.
a zipper plus the 2 magnets. So, you know, again, I just wanted something hands-free,
Yeah.
but something I could carry on my back. And when I tested it, because the first, you know, I said we often take 2 or 3 samples before we get the one we love. The first one was much bigger and it was too heavy. And the second one, I added pockets on the side, and it was a little too much like Dora the Explorer.
Yes.
A little much. And so one of the things you mentioned when you said you put your laptop in there, I do too. And so that's the key, is it had to fit my laptop.
yes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's very cool.
What's your typical market for those backpacks? Do you see college students using them, or do you see older women who take them with them to like work or out to the barn?
I think the backpack is kind of crosses all generations. And the reason being is I think, you know, like I mentioned, I would want something that's hands-free when I'm traveling. So I think for any age it works. For a young person, it really is it's a really nice piece. We've seen some women or families who've purchased this for their daughters as a graduation gift, because it's a really nice handbag slash backpack.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think this fits all ages. Like, I love that you're young and you're carrying one. I'm not your age. I'm carrying one and it's easy. And I see other women that are sharing pictures of them, even like riding their horse, and they throw it on their back just for fun. So, you know,
Yeah.
it really does seem to cross all generations.
Do you know, Jill, how many different purses you actually carry, different lines? I mean, you have so many. They're on your website. We know that. But do you know offhand how many different versions I mean, it can be endless, because if you pick a different combination with your purses
Exactly.
and
You
color,
feel my pain.
right. But your
I
your
never-
standard size, you know, your standard purses themselves, or, you know, backpacks, yeah.
Well, it's a great question, because I never intended to carry as many SKUs as I do. So we've got 8 different styles.
Okay.
They all come in 4 embossing options, some of them 5 in our
Yes.
luggage. And our most recent leather goods, we've added polos, so some have 5 options. So, you know, you could have one purse that has 24 different SKUs. You know, like the Brandywine backpack, 3 colors, 5 embossing options. That's 15 right there.
Yeah.
So we have about 250 unique products that we
That's really
carry.
awesome. I bet your heart just bursts when you see somebody with one, when you're somewhere and you see somebody carrying one. I mean, it's like you want to say, I did that.
Yes. And I don't want to weird people out and say, hey, I like your purse. But I have done that when I've seen people in a grocery store carrying my purse, or at a horse show. And I do go to local horse shows myself. And I see someone, I just always say, oh, that's a nice purse. I saw a woman in Dover carrying one once, and I just said, that's a nice purse. And I just can't go beyond that. But inside, I'm like, this just makes me happy.
Wow.
Yeah. I've been reading a book by Bob Goff called
Love Does?
I did Love Does, but
Dream Big.
Dream Big. And he saw someone reading his book, and he said, I just could hardly help myself but to go over and say, I wrote that, but he didn't want to do the same thing. He said, I don't want to make him feel funny, but in this story, he does talk about that. But I thought, how wonderful it would be to see somebody, where you're just walking along and there it is, it has to be a really good feeling and a sense of accomplishment. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Once I was, my mother passed away 2 years ago, but she always came here and stayed with us for Christmas for 20 years. She stayed in my home for Christmas. And we were at church. We attend a very large church in Mooresville, and we took her to the Christmas Eve service, and a woman walked in carrying a red Lexington. And she sat down across the aisle from us, and I poked my mom and I just pointed over there. We were like, and I didn't know the woman. It was just one of those moments where you're like, wow, this is really special.
That's right. Oh, that's wonderful.
So it seems that you research what you're going to do for designs very extensively. So when you go into a store, do you go over to the purses and look at the different shapes, or how does like the start of a design work for you?
And can I just say too, I'm sorry, I just have to show you this purse again too. I'm sorry, the inside of it, there are so many, my purse is messy, but so many zippers and places to put things, and a zipper on the back, which I just love.
Right.
But, that's what kind of goes along with what Gretchen's asking, how you figure that out.
There's
or
so
you
many
think
details
about, right,
that
so many
go
details,
into it.
yes, which I love.
Yeah. We have been attending the American Equestrian Trade Association show for almost 10 years now. That's the trade show where people purchase horse products that go into tack stores around the U.S. and really around the world. And we would attend that twice a year in Pennsylvania. That's where we see tack stores, Bit and Bridle. We see Valencia Saddlery. We see tack stores from around the U.S. and they come and place orders with us. And when I was there, to answer your question, I remember probably our second year in, there was a woman who said, can you just do a purse with a zipper down the center? And I was never kind of that girl that needed lots of compartments. I kind of just wanted something huge and open, which is why the Lexington, which we debuted first, is giant and open and just luxurious. But I kept it in my mind, and one thing I can say about the way I approach a new product, it's the same way I approach our business, is I move very slowly. Very methodically. I check all the boxes because it's time, it's money, and you don't want to regret rushing anything. So even though she mentioned that probably our second year in at Ada, I just kept it in the back of my mind. And then when I was ready for something really elegant and ladylike, I remembered, somebody wanted a zipper down the center. Now I do have some things filling this to give it shape, but because all of our products, just so you know, ladies, when you store your products, a purse, keep it filled, and that way it won't get creases from crushing. But so here it is. We just said, okay, we're going to do the zipper down the center, which we added, and so many women were thrilled with that. These two other things too, the pockets we do inside, one is for like a key fob and the other's for your cell phone. Those people tell us they want, but that she had said to us, I want a zipper down the center that's private, that you can put things in. But then I've had other people say, can you do a zipper on the back? Like for people who maybe they're getting ready to board a plane and they just want their ticket where they can drop it in, but it's accessible.
Right.
So we kind of merged several zipper requests in this one purse. And then we've always had women who said, can you be sure that closes so that if your purse falls over in the car, all the contents don't spill out.
Yes.
So really a lot of ideas came together in this, but I'm just so proud of this design. I mean, she is so ladylike.
Just so pretty. That's beautiful.
So what's your favorite? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure you have so many like different bags that you just love, but what is like your ultimate favorite bag that you are beyond proud of and that you love designing? Like you just love it.
It's such a tough one. I mean, this one, I'm like, you can tell I gush over this one
Yes.
because she is so pretty, and it's the one we definitely call a she. A lot of the other horses, like the James River Carryall, to me is like a male. He's like the workhorse, or
he is.
Yes.
he's just so steady, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
But the Brandywine backpack, I mean, to me, I have to tell you all a secret. Whenever I get a new design in and we finally nail it, and it's exactly what I want it to be, it seems like whenever we get that one sample in where we're like, this is it, it's perfection, I can't wait to place a massive order for it. It seems like Dale and I are always taking a road trip, and it's about 4 hours. It seems like we go to the mountains or the beach. It's always about 4 hours, and each time I will sit with that new purse on my lap and I just stare at it, and I just think, I can't believe we pulled this off, and there's nothing
Wow.
like it in the world.
Oh my goodness.
So like the Brandywine backpack was one of those, just because, I mean, there's just so much to it. And I just sit and look at it, and just all the features, the padded straps, and the extra stitching here to reinforce this steady handle. I mean, each one of them really, they're almost like my children.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yes.
It'd be like, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Ida, it's probably like asking her which child is her favorite. It's too hard to do.
Sure. And the first one I remember doing that with, really just staring at it, was the Tweed. This is the Tweed Manor tote.
Aw.
And, across 9 years of Tucker Tweed Equestrian, we have sold more of this style purse in all of its colors and its 4 embossings, because it's a medium-sized purse. So it fits all 4 of you. It fits all of us.
Yeah.
But this was one, same thing. I just sat there with
That's
it in my lap and I thought, I
That's mine
can't
too,
believe we
right?
did this.
Yeah. You
So-
have that one.
You just have to
Yeah,
feel.
that's the same. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the one that I chose because I felt
it's
like
so-
that was
this is so
the
pretty,
one that
too.
I would probably, use the most. And I did use it in the summer and the fall. And then the James River carryall, though, as I started to carry that one, I do like like you said, the design elements of everything. This, where you said like security, things, extra little secure.
The little
This
clip in the
this has
center.
saved so many times everything falling out, and yet I mean, you've got zippers in here. You have another little one that you can you can put your hand in, but anything that you wanted to keep from anyone, I mean, you have extra security things for those too. So
Pockets on both sides.
yeah, there are but it's open and you can carry everything that we wanted to bring here to work, and
That's
you keep
my
your
work.
that's your
tote,
I
like
know
my satchel almost
Right.
now. You know what I mean? That's what I use for business, back and forth, because I carry things back and forth all the time. And I'd always come in with my hands full, and everybody's like, "You
Yes.
need something to put it in." We've tried a couple of different things. This worked.
yep
Yes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that's your work bag. I often tell people my office is in my James River.
yeah
There you go.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Whenever I mean, it's just so easy, and it stands up.
Mm-hmm.
And a design idea that's in there. I don't know if you noticed, the pocket that's behind on the opposite side of the embossing is padded so that you could put a tablet in there. So it protects your tablet.
Okay.
All right.
No, I did not
I
notice
did not
that,
realize.
But yeah.
No, I did not know.
But you are also talking to the people who are not as techy.
No, no, we're the older ones.
Now,
We're
had
the
I
older of
handed
the
it to
group,
one of the
right,
girls, they probably
right.
would have noticed that right
Exactly,
away.
Exactly. So I this question, I know you were like just swamped before Christmas and so busy. After you get through the busy time and you have some time to just sit back and breathe, and you're sitting there, how do you feel? Like, you've done so many things and you've sent out so many products. I mean, it has to feel so good. I mean, there are times where you have to go, my goodness, look at this. How do you feel with all of it?
I'll be honest. I have to confess that often I don't sit and look at where we've gone. My mind is always on what's next.
What's next?
What's next? Because
Okay.
I have a lot of energy, and I'm always thinking about what's the next purse and what collaboration. I'm always thinking about the next thing. So I don't rest very often in what we've done. I have so much gratitude. I can't believe we
Sure.
are where we are.
Sure.
But it's hard to turn off the creative mind. It just keeps moving
Yeah.
on forward.
I can see your passion, and you get really excited when there's passion, and that's just so wonderful. And then when you start to talk with like your team and you start to get your ideas going, I bet you guys are just like this.
Oh.
So much fun. Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do. We do a lot of texting. We do a lot of phone conversations. And I I like paper and pens and markers and things because I'm creative. And so I'm always writing down, I'll have 2 pages of ideas from having a phone conversation with someone on our social media team or some of the other people in the horse industry that I enjoy doing collaborations with. Like, it's so exciting. And you get off the phone, it's like having a great workout or, you know, a really good ride. It just feels so good to be in that arena.
So with that creativeness and the excitement that you get, is there ever a time where you have to like you've gotten too overzealous and need to say, I gotta rein this? I would imagine with purses it would be so easy to come up with, or bags,
yes.
or you know, that you could come up with millions of things, and you know, like how do you fine tune it into just putting that all into maybe 1 or 2 bags that you're thinking about at one time?
Well, it's interesting, like the timing. If you'd asked me this 2 years in, I wouldn't have had an answer. But now, almost 10 years in, I can see as far as like reining back goes. I said that I listen to women who give me great ideas. And when they say, hey, how about hunter green and chestnut? And I do it, it's beautiful. But then, and women give me so many great ideas, and I have a tendency to not say no. So everything we do does sell, but on the flip side is we end up with so many products. And what I do to support our stores is, I mentioned earlier, we've got over 250 SKUs. I try to carry at all times about 5 or more of everything that we sell, so that if you call in and your store is in Ohio and you need a navy chestnut Camden crossbody with a fox on it, well, I have it. And if I don't have it, it's coming within 6 to 8 weeks. But it also means I've got a tremendous footprint of product at all time. It's good for your business. It's good for mine. But at the same time, it is mind blowing. So as far as like pulling the reins back, I am at the point now where, like I said, I've got 2 ideas, 2 concepts on paper, 2 more up here. So what I'm trying to do now, and actually are the first ones that I'm sharing this with, is we're going to start retiring colors, and we're not giving anyone a warning. It's just when the last one is sold, that's it.
Oh, wow.
Now, we've done that with 2 styles already, and I don't make a big deal about it because I don't want anyone to think, oh, it's not a cool color anymore. Oh, it's not a great purse anymore. They're all great. But the reality is I can't carry 350. You know, I never expected to have 250.
Right.
So, for example, we debuted the Normandy Satchel a year after Tucker Tweed Equestrian started, and we retired that 2 years ago. The Lexington we have now retired, and I might have 3 left. And some of our retail partners have, there's a handful of them left around the country. So we do try, we grow, and then I try to get it back together. And the next area where I am doing that is to retire some colors. We will be retiring colors in the Camden crossbody, and also in the Tweed Manor tote. And I don't know that we're going to replace the colors. I think we just may move on to another style, but keep the colors that sell the most. Like I mentioned earlier, the chestnut black, the solid chestnut, the solid black, the colors that you all see in your tack room are the ones that sell the best. So we'll always keep those.
Right.
Did you get like scared to think about, like, you, because of all of the emblems and all the colors, were you scared to like put those orders in and think like, how is this going to work? Or, I mean, how did that feel when you did that?
How am I going to do this as you're growing? Yeah.
Well, we were growing so quickly, I was able to pull it off financially. But at the same time, I thought, what if women don't see what I see? Like the mulberry, I love mulberry. It's a plum in the non-horse world, you would call it plum. But I just thought, are women going to love what I love? And it was kind of scary. Now, some I just knew, the hunter green and chestnut, I just knew that's going to sell. It's such a beautiful combination. Or like the dark chocolate chestnut, again, like I was saying earlier,
pretty.
it's what you see in the tack room.
Yeah.
So you're used to it. You know,
Yeah.
these are the colors you're surrounded by. So yeah, sometimes I do worry, but so far so good. Oh, I can tell you, when we did iPad covers, and I had a girlfriend who's a huge purse fan, just purses in general, and she had asked us to do iPad covers, and I thought, I don't know if horse girls are buying iPads. They're spending their money on their horses. And she talked me into it. And now when we order products, we order massive quantities so that we get the best price possible for you and for our tax stores. So I ordered 800 iPad covers, and we sold them all.
Oh, wow.
And that was one where I thought, is this going to move? But I needed to order that much to make the price, to bring the price to where you would be willing to buy it.
Right.
And it was a risk, but it worked.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
I wanted to ask you about your collaborations. when I first saw you, you did the collaboration with the wristlets where all the influencers designed
Yeah.
that wristlet
Yes.
series. When did you bring influencers in, and do you contribute that to your growth?
Yes, definitely. In fact, I love how each of these girls' ideas were things I would never have come up with. I mean, these women are phenomenal and they each do something different in the horse world. I'm so glad I asked them, and they've all become friends too. To be honest, like that's one of the gifts of this business is I become friends. You all are my friends now. We talk about we're family.
Yeah.
The tack store owners have become family to me. But these girls feel the same way, and like the colors they brought in, like this is the one that Taylor did. Taylor is the East Coast Equestrian.
Pretty.
And like she thought of the classic beige and white, we call it sand and white, but like I love that they thought of things that I wouldn't have thought of, and they've done just so well. And like the black one you mentioned earlier, that's
Yes.
Andrea Wise, that's horse glam, and she attended Wake Forest, and that's black and gold. Those are her school colors. So yeah, that was and I think what happened, to answer your question, I think when we did that influencer series, it opened us up to their followers too.
Right.
So the nice thing is their followers got to see what these women would choose to carry themselves
Yeah.
personally. So it was a win-win for everyone, I think.
Nice.
They're gorgeous purses, and you can definitely see all of their influences in that. The one that stuck out to me the most was the pink one. Did Bethany Lee do that one?
Oh, Bethany Lee, yes. In fact, I have it behind me. You can see it there.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the Living Coral and Peach. Bethany Lee chose that one, and that's perfect. She's in Florida. That is so
Yeah.
perfect for where she is, and people love that. And look how it stands out. I put it back there on purpose because it really stands out. It's a beautiful
does.
wristlet.
Aw.
And there's Tucker looking at the wristlet.
Aw, that's so
That's my
cute.
boy.
So sweet.
So-
Well,
That's Tucker.
I just have one problem with all of this. Now I want more purses. So there's just that's the problem. we love what we have, but I like the others as well too. So seeing them and having you talk about them.
Oh,
So.
we will be longtime customers.
Yes.
We have enjoyed them so much, and actually, did you purchase them for all of the like grandchildren? You know,
Yes.
as gifts, and they were so
They
impressed.
are very excited.
Yeah.
They've actually
They were so thrilled, so excited.
they're taking pictures so I can see them with their purses because
Yeah.
some of them are a distance away. So I want to see them, but we'll show you. But we were excited about that because everybody was very excited that we all had the same, like a purse from
Yeah.
you, and it was fun.
Our
really,
aunt
really fun.
opened it up, and your sister opened it up, and she goes, "This just smells like good leather."
Yes. It is delicious. You know, I can think of times when we've had an inbound come in and I'm looking at 400 purses, and I know I've posted this many times. I'll say, "Can you smell the leather?"
Yes, yes,
Because
yeah.
it is amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for certain.
Yeah. Hey, I have to turn the tables on you all for a second because you've asked me about my business.
Yes.
I'm just curious. You all are Ramm fencing, and the name of your podcast is Late Night Riders.
Yes.
I think you need to explain what you guys do because I'd like to know.
Well, we just really roundtabled and
Yeah, we talked about it
talked
a
about
lot,
it.
trying to figure out what we wanted to do
Yeah.
for a podcast
Podcast.
name. We didn't want to name it the Ramm Fence Podcast.
Yeah.
Similar to, like, we have our blog called Your Horse Farm. It is Ram's blog, but it's titled Your Horse Farm. Horse Glam actually wrote for us for a while. That's where we found Tucker Tweed. She had a blog post about it on our blog. So when it came time to doing a podcast, everyone brought 5 ideas, and we sorted it down from there. And you can...
We just felt as though we wanted people to be able to go home after a day's work or whatever, and just maybe in the evening sit and listen to a good podcast about equestrian lifestyles. You know, it's so faceted. What we do is so faceted, and it's so exciting because there's so many different businesses and, different takes in the horse world. So we just thought it would be something someone would enjoy to listen to maybe in the evening or whatever, because we're all
Yeah.
so busy.
And riding. I mean, that was the
Yes.
only time that people
We
really,
ride.
we
Had
knew
time.
don't I mean, people with arenas and things like that can ride later at night, but usually people aren't. But this is when we riders can get together in the late night. So
So that's how we kind of came up with it. We just came onto that and said, let's go forward with it, because we really didn't at first. I mean, another person in our company had talked about like podcasting and things like that. But then when Gretchen came in, she had just basically graduated from school. She was graduated from Union in Tennessee. Sorry, I was going to say Kentucky. But then she had ideas of let's do this podcast. Then Ida was able to join us, and she had just graduated then from fashion merchandising from Kent. So we were so excited to, we started before that, but it was just like the push to help us. I'm old school, so I'm glad I had them to be able to do that. So thank you for asking. That was very nice of you.
You're welcome. And I get the concept of the late night riding. When you work, often you have to ride at night.
We do. Yeah, that's for certain. Yep. So.
All right, well, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll enter our next segment, Canter Banter.
Our next segment, Canter Banter, is brought to you by Ramm Horse Fencing and Stalls, the one-stop shop for your horse farm. Ramm is family-owned and operated and has been in business for over 30 years. We welcome you to call in and speak with an expert about your next project today at 866-653-8984. Again, that's 866-653-8984. Do you love horses and live the equestrian lifestyle? Be sure to check out our brand new blog at www.yourhorsefarm.com. We publish 3 posts per week and feature a free printable equine checklist every month. Yourhorsefarm.com is a great equine online resource, so be sure to share with all the horse lovers in your life. And remember, laugh much and ride often.
When I was working in my office this morning, I turned off I listened to podcasts, I listened to music, I listened to the news while I'm working. I turned everything off, and I was just thinking about business advice. What would I give to if I had a younger sister, and I did come up with a list of things that I just thought I wouldn't know them. I wouldn't have known any of these things, but 10 years down the road, your hindsight is so good. Yeah. So the first thing I would recommend, because I don't think you'll ever regret, is to take your time. I shared with you how it really took me a long time to find the right manufacturer, develop the right product, get the right price point, and figure out how I was going to launch it. It took me over a year. It's not something you can do overnight. It really, it's worth it to take the time. So I always highly recommend that. And then while you're taking that time, do your homework. My mother and I actually went to several tack stores in North Carolina to research to see what was out there in the luggage or handbag world, in the horse industry. And I wanted to know, if I'll be competing with anyone, what will it be? Because I wanted to be sure that whatever I did was different. Yeah. And by choosing the 4 different embossing options and now 5, that is what set us apart, is we are discipline specific. I have the discipline for whatever you do, hopefully. And so we offer lots of options to meet lots of riders' needs. But doing the homework ahead of time, it's due diligence, it's asking questions. I sat down with the owner of a tack store in Mooresville, which is where I live. It's just outside of Charlotte. Country Ride Saddlery was a tack store that has since closed, but Linda Cole was the owner. She had these gorgeous plaid chairs, big high back chairs in her window, and we sat. I would bring her coffee, and if there was no one in the store, we would sit and she would talk and I would listen. And I just I kind of just marinated in whatever she shared with me. And I think that time, asking a lot of questions and listening on the front end, that's so important. Something else that if you're thinking about starting a business, I highly recommend you choose your name wisely, because you'll see some names that are just so catchy, and then others where it's not obvious what it is. Yeah. Like you've got Bit and Bridle Tack Shop. You know what that is. You know what I mean? It really helps if some part of what you do, Ramm Fencing, it says fencing in the name. It really helps and Ramm, I guess there's strength in that. There must be a reason you all chose Ramm.
It's a road we lived on. Now that's just so funny. I don't want to interrupt you, but we were trying to come up with a name, and it was like, we've got to get this registered. We've got to do it. So we lived on Ramm Road, but we liked it because it sounded so strong. And our fences are flexible, so we liked the name. That's how it ended up being Ramm. Yes.
And you had to come up with it quickly.
We did.
Because the name that they had before, which we lived in White House, And so it was White House Fence Company, and you could no longer use White House Fence, like you couldn't use White House in your name. And so they sat at their table really
Just
quickly
couldn't
and
decide. My husband and I, back and forth, we went, so we came up with that name, and it just worked. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you've got such a great story.
Well, thank
And, here the only part I knew was I'm thinking it's strong, like a ram.
There you go.
But then the backstory is you lived on that road.
I did. We
I
did.
think something else that's important, and I'm sure you know this as a successful business owner, that you have to spend so wisely. I have seen some women put out beautiful products. In 10 years of doing this, I've seen a lot. And I've seen some women do some beautiful products in 10 years, and then they spend so much money on the front end in their packaging and maybe signage. And then
Right.
I think they've invested so much in those things that you don't have to put a lot of money into on the front end, and then their businesses end up failing
Right.
because they've put so much out when they really just need to focus on their product.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, all of our money on the front end went into our product. And then I saved pennies everywhere else that I could. Even the boxes that we use for shipping, they were odd boxes from a box company in Charlotte. When they would have an overrun, they discount their boxes to
That's
like a third of what they would normally be.
We do
You
do
know,
that too.
Yes. Yes.
See?
Yep.
Yeah. I
Yep.
still do that. Yeah. Building relationships, I think, is key. I can't recommend that enough to young people who want to start a business, or any age, really. You can start a business whenever you want, but building relationships is so important, and being authentic when you build them, because even though we're talking about my product, I'd love to talk to you about your horses, and what you did with your horses this week,
Yes.
because that's what we love and we have in common.
Absolutely.
Something else that I find that you will never regret being kind. People say be kind in the real world. Yes. Be kind in business too.
Yes.
You'll never regret it. I've seen a couple women who were really tough on others on Facebook or in person. And I just think you're not representing your brand well when you treat others that way.
I know.
And I don't think you're ever going to regret being kind, but you could regret going the other direction. And then the other thing that I know I've mentioned before in the design process, which is to really listen. I mean, obviously you can tell I enjoy communicating with people, and I'm not uncomfortable communicating, but when someone opens their mouth and says, "Hey, Jill, have you ever thought?" I'm like, I have nothing to say, but I become a sponge, and I really do listen. So those would be the things that I would recommend. Oh, and there's one last thing. I had the confidence to do this on the front end, and I encourage anyone else to do this as well, which is that in the beginning, if you see someone who has maybe someone you've admired, someone who has a product that they've been doing for 10 years and doing it well, don't be afraid to reach out to that person by email and ask them for advice. I did that with Carrie Kent, who was the founder of Carrots. And she gave me great advice. Everything that she recommended that I do, colors, our shirts, our signage, home run suggestions.
Wow.
So I want to encourage people to not hesitate to reach out to people for advice.
That's good.
That's very, very good. I couldn't agree with you more, being in business, all of us as well too. But I think it is important to reach out and speak to people. I think people who are in business, when they talk to others, they get so much information from them that's so helpful. I think that's very good advice.
Yeah, very much so. I do have another question though. How do you balance it all? I mean, from owning a company and then trying to go out and ride and with your family,
Have a life.
yes,
Going to lacrosse
Or do you have a
games.
life? Right. Yeah.
I think balance is the eternal question for equestrians. I think balance is really hard for us because horses take so much time. But if I could recommend anything, it's particularly for someone who's young. I can tell you that when, I had my horse in high school, I sold him to go to college, not to go to college, but I sold him before I went to college and continued to ride in college. And then once I started my career, between starting my career and having a family, there were some pretty good gaps in my riding. And I want to encourage any young riders or riders who have a gap wherever they are in life, that horses will wait for you.
Yes.
There will always be horses out there, and there will always be opportunities. You just have to kind of seek them.
That's
When I
true.
didn't have the time to own a horse and I wasn't going to spend the money to buy one, I found a woman who lived locally who owned 4 horses and needed help riding them. I'm your girl.
Yes.
You know, I just, and I did that for 4 years. And then with Tucker, I mentioned I've had Tucker for 12 years, and I had to retire him 5 years after I bought him with the bone spur in his coffin joint. We injected for about maybe 6 months and made some progress. And then after that, it was over. So he was retired for 4 years, and I didn't purchase another horse, but I leased 2 horses. So leasing is a great way to find balance
Yes.
because you may not have the time or the money to invest in buying, but there may be someone who needs a horse to go sit somewhere for a few years while they're waiting for another
Very
opportunity. So I encourage people to look at leasing as a way to find balance, because it helps the person who owns the horse with expense and time. And then it helps the person who's leasing because they're not committed to something. And, I think finding balance is tricky, but I think leasing and just knowing that they will be waiting for you is kind of encouraging. Because I can tell you, when I was working, I often thought, am I ever going to ride horses again? Will I ever be back in the saddle consistently again? And I think the answer is yes. It's just when the timing's right.
Yeah.
That's very true. And I can tell you myself, I've been in and out with business at different times too as well, but they are there. And then when you go back to it, I said it's just like, falling in love all over again. It really is, because it's just so wonderful to go back to it. And it's a passion of yours. You love it so much, but there's nothing as wonderful as just being able to be in it. But you do have to go in and out sometimes when you do have priorities like this. So very well understood. Yes.
Well, I think this has been such a great podcast. It was
Yes.
wonderful talking to you.
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it. So nice to talk
Likewise.
to you.
It's wonderful to talk to you all as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. We hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast and encourage you to share with all your equestrian family and friends. You can tune into the Late Night Riders podcast show every Friday night. Each episode will be uploaded exclusively on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our latest shows. Do you have a topic you'd like us to discuss? We want to hear from you. You may email us at podcast@rammfence.com or feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you again for listening.